let's welcome first our moderator, Somi Varghese, Head of Digital Transformation and Technology from Etoile Group. Let's welcome Somi with a lovely round of cheer. Hi, and a very, very warm welcome to be greeting you. Thank you for flashing that smile. That's always very de-stressing when you're on the stage. Thank you. Thanks for walking in. Please allow me to very quickly rope in your panel as well. And I'm going to be inviting Sunando Chaudhary, Director, Strategic Projects and Accounts, ADNIC Group. Please come forward. Very, very warm welcome to you. Please welcome Haris bin Tahir, the Group IT Head at Amina Healthcare. Can we also have Satyashankar Chiravari? Thank you for those applauses. Keep it coming. We're always happy receiving that. Who is Head of Technology Platforms, Cloud and Security from Al-Futain. Can we also please welcome, keep in those applauses. These are for your industry leaders there. Can we also have Jana Shatla, the Head of IT Strategy and Planning from Abu Dhabi Media. Please welcome Sameer Siman, the Channel Manager, Middle East at Pure Storage. So there we are, welcoming our panel as well. And we will, of course, hand over the strings of the conversation to our moderator to take charge. We'll request the panel if we can take any extra chairs, we'll just get that removed as well. So that, so there's one thing that I'm always concerned with, having just the best angle of the pictures. But having said that, let's just get the panel started. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think there is a low energy. Can we have some energy across the room, please? Oh, that's very good. So we are ready, I suppose, now for our panel. It's a pleasure having you join our panel on multi-cloud and data management. We heard cybersecurity, we heard generative AI, but the base technology which is there is multi-cloud. So today we are going to talk about multi-cloud and how we would manage data in the multi-cloud. So today our goal is to dive into these complexities and share some valuable insights and maybe even uncover some fresh solutions. By the end of this discussion, we will be better equipped to make the most of the multi-cloud era. So let's get started. So ladies first. So Dana, the first question is to you. Please tell us what are the typical data challenges and the management challenges you would face in a multi-cloud environment.
Okay, thank you, Somi. Allow me first to thank the organizers behind this event. It's been a long day for them, I'm sure, for giving us the chance to be here today and talk about one of the most important topics that's been trending lately when it comes to data management. As we are all aware, enterprises nowadays are increasingly moving towards adopting multi-cloud architectures within their environment, and that's increasing lots of challenges and complexities within their environment when it comes to data management and cost management. Having a multi-cloud environment means you must be dealing with different cloud solution providers, and that by itself is challenging because you need to manage those cloud solution providers. Means you have different contracts, different SLAs with them, you have different pricing model, so you need to keep on controlling, monitoring the cost billing cycles to ensure cost optimization is there. Because this is one of the most important aspects of moving into the cloud, is cost optimization for the long run. The heterogeneity of your data sources means you have data silos, and you need to manage the data that is stored in different locations. So how you're gonna ensure you're managing and have clear monitoring and control across your data in such hybrid environment? How you can do that without impacting data quality, ensuring data latency is there, synchronization is there. What are the approaches that you're going to select for your data integration without impacting all what I have just mentioned? What about the approaches and mechanisms that you're going to select with respect to data migration, backups, data backups, and your DR plans? All these are challenging and needs to be actually considered in your cloud-first strategy at the very beginning to avoid any pitfalls and challenges during your cloud transformation journey, and to have a leveraged data management across your multi-cloud environment.
Thank you, Dana, for it. Sunando, may I have your take on this and how you are looking at it in your side?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm sure it's quite late in the day. We'll keep it brief. I think, how I see it from a data point of view, I see it in three ways effectively. Primarily, I see it how you've set it up. I think she already touched upon it. What's your data strategy? How have you set it up? How many vendors are you connected to? What's the lock-in period that you have put in? So that's primarily all the initial how you set yourself up, and then is the second part, which is how you are going to run it. So a lot of the time we end up having a multi-cloud environment. However, as simple as that, we do not have a trained resource to manage it, one or many, depending on the size of the organization. So then effectively what happens is your run cost keeps going up, and then you don't really actually utilize the resources that you have locked into, or what kind of contracts you're managing. So the running of the business, then obviously there's an impact on the data, and maybe you're actually not backing up the right data. What's your backup strategy? So all of that comes into the running of the environment. And then the last part, which I think was discussed in very great detail in the previous session, is the security. So the moment you are in a multi-cloud environment, you end up having security requirements also from all the players or suppliers that you are dealing with or interacting with. How are you going to manage your data? How are you going to back up? How are you going to retrieve? What's the latency on the data? So all of that then comes, and how are you going to secure? The most important thing is, how are you going to the identity management. This is the biggest challenge, because at the end of the day, identity is any organization, they work with one identity. You will not work with multiple identity, irrespective of you have a multi-cloud environment. So how are you going to work with the cloud providers to make sure your identity is secure and you're able to get what you're looking for? So I typically see it in all the three areas, and that's how I would deal with data.
Thank you, Sunanda. Over to you, Samar.
Same question, correct?
Yeah, the same question.
So, hi everyone. After what has been said, multi-cloud strategy in any organization, it's very important for them to have the flexibility of choice, the best of breed technology from each one of those vendors or service provider, cloud service provider. But it has been mentioned by both of them already that it's adding somehow a complexity to manage the data, to store the data, to secure the data, to protect the data, because we're talking multi-cloud vendors, and also at the same time, this cloud need data, need storage. So it could be also a second layer where we have heterogeneous environment from a storage perspective, where you need those software, they communicate like we communicate our standard API, it's English. So even within those software, they communicate with API. So it's going to be on heterogeneous environment. It's adding the complexity on how we're managing this data and how we're going to secure and protect the data created by the multi-cloud strategy that we're applying. But again, it's one of the major challenges that I see. It's really the overhead in management and managing the service provided by the cloud and the multi-cloud. Thank you.
Thank you for those insights. Actually, I was just wondering why nobody mentioned cost, but Samar rightly mentioned it, because cost is one of the main factors in the multi-cloud. The more clouds you add, you can see your costs running up. So that is definitely one of the biggest and the silent complexity, I should say, in the multi-cloud. So let us now pivot and explore another critical aspect of multi-cloud deployments. Sunanda, could you please provide insights into the best strategies or ways for optimizing costs in multi-cloud deployments?
So I think it's very easy to spend a lot of money when you are in a multi-cloud environment, and it's, I think someone touched upon very rightly, because it's very easy to deploy, easy to implement, and then you don't realize what are you going to pay, and then that's where you need to strategize it very well. How are you going to? There's a lot of discussion on orchestration and things like that, but end of the day, you need to really look at where what data is critical and what is not critical, and how can you put the right controls to make sure that you are only paying for those areas which are more critical to you than which is not critical. Because if effectively a lot of data can be residing on the cloud, but suppose you're doing your backup strategy, but you're not looking at you're backing up or trying to keep a DR for everything on the cloud that you have built on. There might be dev and test environments which might not be that critical. And I'm just giving examples. It can be very critical on maybe a bank or another financial institution, maybe not for another organization. So it depends. So as a business, it's important to identify what is important for you and what kind of backup strategies or management strategies you put in to at least manage your costs. Then you also need to see, of course, the lock-in period and things like that, what you sign up to. How can you make sure that you have the right strategies in place to make sure you never you spend what you intended to spend and not go overboard. Of course, you can always manage some of the things in a hybrid environment if it works. Sometimes it might work as a cheaper option, but you can go overboard, or you identify how you want to spend, so you effectively manage your costs.
Yeah, but the hybrid environments are always a double-edged sword. It is like, the cloud or hybrid, but, with the people cost, your cost would again go up.
Even in the cloud environment, your people cost you a lot of the time. People do not factor that, and you end up actually paying more, because you need to also factor the right resources and the right team structure, the support structure you have to make sure you're managing things.
Right. Satya, can I have your take on this?
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity. Well, it's a very interesting topic, cost optimization, right? So rather, I would just give a counter view on this about before even we hit the word cost. I feel it's an outcome of the technology choices and strategy and architecture that we put in place. So most of the time we just get there and then realize that we need to optimize. So that I've been seeing for the last decade or so that I'm in this cloud journey. And also equally important is the contracts that we do with the cloud providers. So many times we get into fancy discussions with the vendors about should we use their PaaS services or so and so forth. What happens once we get locked? Then they have the ability to increase the cost on us. So this is something which we all get dragged into without noticing. Now, coming on the data part of things, we also need to understand how are we optimizing the collection of data, right? So data can grow exponentially if we don't have the right level of, optimization on the data, like how much data you need to keep. There is a lot of focus which needs to be given on the governance part of it. So many organizations, they just keep growing the data because they don't know how many years back data they need to retain. And many times what we do is we always keep the raw data even though the process data is good enough for us to go back to the compliance requirements. So that is one big area where we need to focus on when it comes to optimization. So I believe that in the multi-cloud, the important thing is the interoperability between the two cloud environments that we get. Because typically, two cloud providers won't like us to get into a situation where we have seamless interoperability. So that gives us, today we have a lot of solutions in the market which are multi-cloud enabled, right? So which are like pseudo, architectures. So we need to look into that. We have many platforms available where we can utilize them for data warehouses or big data analytics, etc. Yeah, I just rest
Thanks,
it here.
Satya, for those insights. In fact, this is a regular conversation which we have in our organization when it comes to multi-cloud. It's the governance. And also, what about the cost and the interoperability? Because always everybody, even most of my team members as well, can say, okay, we can do it on cloud, but can we interoperate is always a question. And I see a smile on Samar when you were talking about the cost and the lock-in periods. So probably you could say something about it as you are one of the vendors in this cloud space or storage space.
You will not hear me comment on the cost, first of all. But again, to make it very short, of course, everything could be costly if it's not the right choice. Always we need to think multi-cloud, I repeat again, it is the best strategy that organizations are following for flexibility and having access to the best. But picking the right solution in terms of cost and what it's needed, what can be done with the solution from a cloud service provider, it will avoid all this discussion about now I'm paying that much, it's going to double, it's going to double. It's like the concept of the cloud, pay what you have to pay for, what you're using. Even if you go up, you're going to, of course, pay more. But this is the whole concept of the cost.
Thank you, Samar. Dana, considering all the cost discussions, what are the tools you do use in your site, or what is there in your strategy for the data management and orchestration?
Yeah, actually for all the challenges that we've just mentioned, definitely there are solutions in place that needs to be selected strategically to end up having a smooth and agile operation on your infrastructure and the multi-cloud environment. Firstly, in order to ensure this solution is going to be strategic, as Samir has just mentioned, you need to enforce data governance policies within your organization, ensure all the solutions you're going to select are aligned with the governance policies that you have within your enterprise. Also, when it comes to security compliance and risks, you need to ensure also that the cloud solution providers are going to offer you solutions and the tools that are aligned with your enterprise security protocols and controls. By that, you will be making the right decision that is aligned with your internal governance regulations. Now, solutions to ensure, let's start with operational agility, because that's the most important and the primary reason for moving into the cloud, to ensure your infrastructure is going to be agile on the cloud. First, you need to start from your business, understand the business processes, whether they need to be redesigned, re-architected to end up having on the cloud a streamlined, unified processes, and to have an infrastructure smooth and agile on the cloud. To complement that, you need to look into tools with respect to data virtualization and data fabric. And we're currently in our industry now, we're running POCs in order to see how we can adopt such solutions. Data governance and hybrid data fabric are architectural tools that help in creating governance and secure layers on top of your data sources, and that help you pretty much with your heterogeneous environment. It will help your business access their data in real time without impacting their operation. It will give you clear visibility and control across your data, no matter where they are residing. They will all sound as if all your data is stored in one single repository. Also, solutions with respect to data migrations, there are certain approaches that you can select from. you can select either going with a rehosting approach, means concept of a shift and lift, moving your applications as is onto the cloud, or you're going to go with the refactoring approach, means you're going to redesign, re-architect your applications before you make them ready to move onto the cloud to ensure they're going to adapt and be smooth on the cloud and ensure the operational agility moving forward. Or you're going to go with a re-platforming approach, which is nothing but moving onto the cloud as is and then do the changes on the cloud as you go. In our scenario, as a use case, if you want me to give you an example, we went with a refactoring approach because each of those approaches has its own cons and pros. At the end, there is no right or wrong. You need to select and make up the right strategic decision along mutually with your stakeholders to end up making the right decision moving forward and not to impact your business operation, because at the end they'll be the one who will be impacted directly and indirectly once you move to the cloud. Solutions also with respect to selecting the proper orchestration, and automated tool for controlling and monitoring your data. And you need to ensure such tools need to be vendor agnostic to avoid vendor lock-in and ensure they're going to support the cloud platforms that you are getting from your different cloud solution provider.
Samer, your take on this?
Here again, it's going to be a very simple answer. Whatever Dan has said, all what I need to tell you that this software layer that it's sitting between the multi-cloud provider that you have inside your organization and the heterogeneous environment from an infrastructure perspective, she mentioned you need an agnostic third-party software. And this is where our game comes. That's just you had to say that it's Portworx. Portworx, it's a pure storage software that it's sitting in this middle layer. And it's going to do what she mentioned by managing the data, storing the data, securing the data, protecting the data, and the mobility of the data between, again, I always repeat, the multi-cloud layer and the heterogeneous storage system that we have. So Portworx as a solution that we're offering with the data services set, it's to manage this data that are created within this multi-cloud, and also you add to it the DevOps that it's sitting there where you have all the containers and the microservices on it. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Samer. We heard a lot about cybersecurity, securing our data across, even with the generative AI, etc. There were a lot of conversations around that. So, Sunanda, my question is towards you. What would be your backup and recovery strategies in a multi-cloud environment?
I think someone just gave the answer, right? so yeah, I would suggest, end of the day, again, if I connect what I said at the beginning, and I think everybody mentioned the same thing, it's the type of data. The most important is you need to identify what is the data that you really want to back up, recover, store, because end of the day it's a cost, as you said, and as everybody has already articulated. Now, once we've identified what we want to do, then we need to put the backup, strategies, how we are going to do on a multi-cloud environment. Something that was mentioned, if you can have a layer which can do, can be an agnostic layer, which can work on across platforms, fantastic. But again, how cost efficient is it? Question. But yeah, that's something for an organization to decide. But end of the day, again, I think we go back to the same thing which everybody highlighted. It's how we design, how we architect our recovery and backup, the whole environment that would determine what is the best way to recover. There are many, I think there are a lot of tools in the market. They can be used as an orchestration layer and they're agnostic. So it's not that we need to have a certain defined cloud provider to provide that. There are tools like and of course someone mentioned Pure Storage and other solutions like that which can do it, which sits in the middle, helps you to do backup recovery. But again, end of the day, it's how you design. How much you need, when do you need it, how soon do you need it. As long as those are defined well, I think there are enough tools and strategies in the market to implement it.
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing, is the governance part of it and the compliance part. Do we need to keep all the data for the multiple years we should keep? Or are we keeping these data as a backup due to certain compliance purposes? So that also adds into this particular
100%.
thing. My next question would be to Satya. So how does containerization help in multi-cloud? And what are the advantages of containerization in the cloud environment?
Sure. It's simple at the first level. Containerization helps portability for you. And also, it helps you from getting vendor locked, right? So in the multi-cloud environment, we can look at containerization from a perspective of building system resiliency as well. So when we talk about recovery from a disaster, we often focus on backups and restoration of backups. Many times in the past, we have seen we don't check if the backup is really restorable or is it really was restored 100% when we really needed it, right? So I'll take it back to being a little futuristic of focusing more on system resiliency than on the recovery part. Now, that's where containerization can help us a lot because you can rebuild your environment pretty quickly. You can port it from one cloud provider to another cloud provider. You can bring it back onto your on-premise as well, if the need be. So these are the various advantages, and usually you go with open stack software on containerization so that it works on multiple environments. So I would put it in that way, that the biggest thing is interoperability. Then it gives you better control on your costs, right? So you know how much you have spent on building your image to containerize. And also from a governance perspective, you're not changing anything. You're not changing your operations. You're still functioning the same way as you were in a previous environment when you rebuild it in a different environment. So I rested there.
Yeah, just to add one more thing, I think which you rightly said, like your disaster recovery. So your RTO and RPO gains efficiency when you do containerization. Absolutely. So that is one of the main advantages, which I say, of course, interoperability is no-go. So that is something very, one of the biggest advantages, I would say. Samar, what do you say about this?
Okay, so when this discussion about containers and containerized environment and all this started, I took one of the experts that we have in the company. I said, listen, I used to be a developer. I do understand the code, but tell me what's the difference? What is this container word that we're talking, or environment? He said, Samar, it's very simple. If you have a piece of land, you want to build a villa. I said, yes. He said, what do you do first? I said, I prepare the infrastructure for the gas, power, electricity, and water, and everything, and I start building. I designed it for 3 bedrooms, and he said, perfect, it's done, the villa, right? I said, yes. How many family? I said, it's going to be my family, and then if I have some cousin, this is what the villa on this piece of land will absorb. He said, okay, take the same piece of land. If you want to do a building, build a building. I said, also, I need to prepare exactly the infrastructure from water, gas, and electricity, and then I'm going to build the whole building. He said, yeah, in this building. I said, yeah, of course. I start really getting the message from him. In this building, I'm going to have a lot of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, penthouse. So even if I'm a bachelor, I'm going to go. I have the flexibility within the same building to move from one to another. And he started telling me, this is the container wars where you can use, you have the flexibility, the speed of movement. You can do whatever you want in a very fast way because you have all those containers serving the same platform, all the infrastructure serving all those containers. And he said, go back to the villa. If you want to do some change, you have to remove the villa and build again. So this is building the right structure based on the right architecture and moving up. And this is where container, I'm a fan now of container and microservices, because it's going to provide you the speed, the agility, and also the scale. You scale, again, we scale in the same building. Even if I have 4 kids, I'm going to move in the same building to the penthouse. So this is the container and the microservices.
Thank you, Samar. Very well explained. And I think it is said in such a simple way, everybody could relate to it. Dana, before the conference, we were having a lot of conversation on compliance and governance. So my question now is to you, is how do you manage the compliance and governance in the multi-cloud environments? And how does it help or how does it support our discussion in containerizations?
Yeah. Actually, for all the solutions that you've just mentioned, governance is the most important aspect for all organizations to consider when it comes to multi-cloud environment, to ensure their solutions and their practices are moving streamlined across their environment. First of all, from governance perspective, how to enforce and outline governance within the organization, you need to understand, as I mentioned earlier, the requirements of your organization and the needs. Accordingly, you need to outline, enforce governance across your environment. Also, with respect to security, compliance, and controls and protocols, you need to ensure the solutions, platforms you're receiving from each of the different cloud solution providers are aligned with your enterprise security requirements. So all these comes in place when we speak about governance. Governance also encompasses regular assessments on your environment, assessments on the cloud solution provider also, if you want, and on the support that they're doing, on the solutions that they are providing. This needs to be done minimum yearly, and it's an ongoing exercise. You might need to also bring up tools to help you out with the monitoring, setting up alerts to avoid, any potential threats and non-compliant behaviors that you might be encountering across your hybrid environment. You need also to understand and do assessment on your cloud resources and understand and do classification on your data with respect to sensitivity and ensure data encryption is there. To ensure your data is getting securely accessed from the stakeholders, and ensure you're having a streamlined data management access with a proper monitoring and control tool in place. Definitely you need to do the workshops, trainings for your stakeholders so everybody's aligned, everybody knows about the enforced policies and governance rules that you're setting up and that needs to be aligned with during your cloud transformation journey. Documentation is very important when it comes to documenting your policies, procedures, processes, security controls, and this is not a one-time job. Again, this is an ongoing exercise that you need to keep on updating, visiting those documents, keeping them up to date with the accelerated changes and the changing and increasing volume of your data. So having set a proper governance in place with respect to the solutions, with respect to the decisions that you're doing that is aligned with your enterprise will help you leverage and streamline your data management practices and have an effective data management in place across your multi-cloud environment.
Yeah, I can't agree more with you than on this particular aspect of education. Educate your users, educate your stakeholders, educate your management about how to manage the data across your cloud. Even though it looks very simple, that education is one of the most important aspects I see. Okay, Satya, how important is it to have a single interface into all these multiple clouds, what we would have and what we will have in the future?
Very important. Yeah, I mean, managing IT has become increasingly complex with, so much of diversification that we are having. Be it security, we introduce a lot of tools in security area, be it observability, be it even managing operations. So, it's everywhere, you have so many systems to manage each and everything, and then you integrate. So it's very difficult to get a single view on a, we call it a single glass pane view, right? So all the dashboards at one place to even understand what is our health of our IT. So if we have so much of data that we keep looking at, and in the process, we try to struggle to connect between, I would say, in terms of, governance or compliance, the three key pillars I would consider is, one is the cost, right? Second part is your security, right? And then the third part is your infra operations. So your entire, governance, compliance metrics can be derived from these three primarily. You may add more network, etc. So I put that all under infra ops. So we face, in today's world, we face a lot of external audits as well, internal audits as well. Every now and then new, requirements come up. It is becoming increasingly, important for the organizations to comply. There are many frameworks which the government comes up with, many frameworks which the industry comes up with. So, and the core of it, to manage how we are doing or how compliant or non-compliant is it, it's very important that we integrate all these data, right? So if I'm still trying to find a particular tool or a particular, view wherein I can have an integrated view, but a single interface is what we need for better management of our governance and compliance.
To sum it up very quickly, because I've already got a warning bell from here. So multi-cloud is the way to go and is the way. So we have to, do whatever is required in order to ensure correct data management across the clouds. Anyway, a big thank you to all our panelists for sharing great insights, giving simple examples, and I hope all the audience gained some knowledge, though it was a quite technical panel. I hope many of you all understood what containerization is, the Villa examples, etc. And I hope it really enriched you in certain aspects on certain points and how you could better your multi-cloud environment. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Thank you.